bring in of the 911 call and this case. I want to bring in former FBI profiler Mary Ellen O'Toole. Mary Ellen, this 911 call fills in part of the story that we didn't know before. What does hearing that Laundrie allegedly slapped Petito tell you about this case?
It's insight into their relationship, and that will become especially important if they have the opportunity to interview Brian. So it suggests that there were issues between the two of them, those elevated to physical violence, and then in the tape of Gabby and how she appeared very emotionally upset outside the van, that also becomes important in case there are statements made that she was never upset, she was always fine, she never got fearful or concerned. This videotape will explain that that's just simply not true, and it certainly falls into what they used for the affidavit for the search warrant on September the 15th, that there was concern about her state of anxiety, and that actually led to their being able to obtain the warrant to get some of the electronic equipment that they did.
So what can you glean from the execution of the search warrant at the Laundrie's house yesterday, and what do you think that they're looking for in that house? Is it all technology and computers and cell phones, or something else?
The one on September the 15th looked like it was mostly the technology, but the one yesterday that was served by the FBI, it seemed to be more extensive, particularly because they also took the vehicle, the Mustang. At this point, we're not sure what was precisely in that warrant, but my sense is that they're looking for things beyond technology, again, because the police department already obtained most of that on the 15th.
We're also learning more now about the timeline of Gabby Petito's disappearance. Search warrant paperwork says that a text message sent from her phone on August 27th asks her mom to help Stan, who's her grandfather. So Petito's mother thought that text message was strange because Petito doesn't normally refer to him by his first name. In your experience, is it likely that someone else sent that text message? How big of a clue is that?
Well, it's certainly an indication, particularly since the comment came from her mother, that the use of the name Stan is not consistent with how Gabby would write about her grandfather. So that would certainly suggest that there's a likelihood that someone else wrote that text and sent it, thinking that they could dupe the parents into believing that that was actually Abby.
Let's go back to Laundrie's return to Florida on September 1st without Petito. Her family reported her missing 10 days later. It wasn't her family who, it wasn't her fiance rather, who reported her missing. As a profiler, what does that behavior tell you about this case?
The fact that Laundrie came back to the home that they both shared without Abby is a huge red flag. So there should have been many questions that were asked. Where is she? What happened? But reports of the neighbors say that he was out riding his bicycle with his mother. So those are opposite ends of the continuum, suggesting that he seemed okay. He wasn't under a lot of stress, at least visible. And they were acting business as usual. And it's particularly interesting that there was no contact made with Gabby's family about, I'm back, but she isn't. Again, another red flag to suggest that Brian is distancing himself from all of this, but because of his lack of experience in these kinds of cases, he's never been the focus of a major manhunt before that's on the front page of all the papers. If he is responsible for this, he's not demonstrating any kind of level of sophistication in how he's managing his behavior. His planning seems to be breaking down. His thinking seems to be breaking down. And if he's still alive, that type of deterioration in making decisions and good judgment, even his health, will continue to break down under the pressure.
Before we let you go, I want to ask you one more question about that body camera footage that we saw a couple of minutes ago when the two of them were pulled over in Utah. Did you notice anything about how they were acting during that stop when they were being questioned by police. Perhaps something that you would have said, that looks like domestic violence to me. That looks like a situation where they should be separated for a longer period of time. What could you read into that based on what you saw?
The two behaviors were strikingly different. Gabby seemed to be very anxious and stressed. Brian did not. Brian did show the officers that he had some injuries. They didn't look that closely at Gabby, but that certainly would suggest, along with the 911 call, which supported this, that there was not only stress between the two, but that stress had elevated to a physical assault. But the officer in the video did explain that they did have enough to actually file, if they wanted to, a domestic abuse crime, but they did not. But to me, they did seem to recognize, excuse me, that there were problems between the two, which actually escalated the violence.
And we should mention that they did separate the two of them. One slept in the van that night, one slept in a nearby hotel. Mary Ellen O'Toole, thank you for your analysis.
Thank you.
And Jerika Duncan was at the Laundrie's home yesterday as the FBI searched it. We'll speak with her about what she's learned about this case around 7:38 Eastern. Of the 911 call and this case, I want to bring in former FBI profiler Mary Ellen O'Toole. Mary Ellen, this 911 call fills in part of the story that we didn't know before. What does hearing that Laundrie allegedly slapped Petito tell you about this case?
It's insight into their relationship, and that will become especially important if they have the opportunity to interview Brian. So it suggests that there were issues between the two of them, those elevated to physical violence, and then in the tape of Gabby and how she appeared very emotionally upset outside the van, that also becomes important in case there are statements made that she was never upset, she was always fine, she never got fearful or concerned. This videotape will explain that that's just simply not true, and it certainly falls into what they used for the affidavit for the search warrant on September the 15th, that there was concern about her state of anxiety, and that actually led to their being able to obtain the warrant to get some of the electronic equipment that they did.
So what can you glean from the execution of the search warrant at the Laundrie's house yesterday? And what do you think that they're looking for in that house? Is it all technology and computers and cell phones, or something else?
The one on September the 15th looked like it was mostly the technology. But the one yesterday that was served by the FBI, it seemed to be more extensive, particularly because they also took the vehicle, the Mustang. At this point, we're not sure what was precisely in that warrant, but my sense is that they're looking for things beyond technology, again, because the police department already obtained most of that on the 15th.
We're also learning more now about the timeline of Gabby Petito's disappearance. Search warrant paperwork says that a text message sent from her phone on August 27th asks her mom to help Stan, who's her grandfather. So Petito's mother thought that text message was strange because Petito doesn't normally refer to him by his first name. In your experience, is it likely that someone else sent that text message? How big of a clue is that?
Well, it's certainly an indication, particularly since the comment came from her mother, that the use of the name Stan is not consistent with how Gabby would write about her grandfather. So that would certainly suggest that there's a likelihood that someone else wrote that text and sent it, thinking that they could dupe the parents into believing that that was actually Abby.
Let's go back to Laundrie's return to Florida. on September 1st without Petito. Her family reported her missing 10 days later. It wasn't her family who, it wasn't her fiance rather, who reported her missing. As a profiler, what does that behavior tell you about this case?
The fact that Laundrie came back to the home that they both shared without Abby is a huge red flag. So there should have been many questions that were asked. Where is she? What happened? But reports of the neighbors say that he was out riding his bicycle with his mother. So those are opposite ends of the continuum, suggesting that he seemed okay. He wasn't under a lot of stress, at least visible. And they were acting business as usual. And it's particularly interesting that there was no contact made with Gabby's family about, I'm back, but she isn't. Again, another red flag to suggest that Brian is distancing himself from all of this, but because of his lack of experience in these kinds of cases, he's never been the focus of a major manhunt before that's on the front page of all the papers. If he is responsible for this, he's not demonstrating any kind of level of sophistication in how he's managing his behavior. I mean, his planning seems to be breaking down. His thinking seems to be breaking down. And if he's still alive, that type of deterioration in making decisions and good judgment, even his health, will continue to break down under the pressure.
Before we let you go, I want to ask you one more question about that body camera footage that we saw a couple of minutes ago when the two of them were pulled over in Utah. Did you notice anything about how they were acting during that stop when they were being questioned by police? Perhaps something that you would have said, that looks like domestic violence to me. That looks like a situation where they should be separated for a longer period of time. What could you read into that based on what you saw?
The two behaviors were strikingly different. Gabby seemed to be very anxious and stressed. Brian did not. Brian did show the officers that he had some injuries. They didn't look that closely at Gabby, but that certainly would suggest, along with the 911 call, which supported this, that there was not only stress between the two, but that stress had elevated to a physical assault. But the officer in the video did explain that they did have enough to actually file, if they wanted to, a domestic abuse crime, but they did not. But to me, they did seem to recognize, excuse me, that there were problems between the two, which actually escalated the violence.
And we should mention that they did separate the two of them. One slept in the van that night, one slept in a nearby hotel. Mary Ellen O'Toole, thank you for your analysis.
Thank you.
And Jerika Duncan was at the Laundrie's home yesterday as the FBI searched it. We'll speak with her about what she's learned about this case around 7:38 Eastern.
Let's get back to the latest now in the Gabby Petito case. Investigators are back out to the Carlton Reserve in Venice to search for her fiancé, Brian Laundrie. Gabby's body was found in Wyoming's Bridger-Teton National Forest on Sunday, and Laundrie has been named a person of interest in this case. Our Calvin Lewis is live from the search site in Venice with an update for us. Calvin, what are you seeing happening there right now?
Yeah, Chris, Lisa, good morning to you both. This scene has been pretty consistent here all morning long just outside the Carlton Reserve. I'll just step out of frame here real quick, but the same sheriff's deputy with the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office, he's been remaining here on guard, directing traffic, if you will, just standing outside the Carlton Reserve, making sure that nobody goes in other than those who will be investigating as part of that search for Brian Laundrie here today. But this spot, it's about 8 miles to the west of the entrance to the Myakkahatchee Creek Environmental Park, and that's where officers were searching over the weekend. But this area, it's called the Carlton Reserve, as mentioned, and it actually connects to the environmental park. So according to authorities, if Laundrie were traveling through these woods, he could have made it to this side. But But the terrain has proved difficult for search crews thus far. They're using helicopters, search dogs, drones, and all-terrain vehicles to search the more than 25,000 acres of parkland.
Terrain's very difficult. Essentially, 75% of it's underwater, and other areas that are dry we're trying to clear.
Now, officials say today's operation will likely look very similar to yesterday's as they work to cover that more than 25,000 acres of parkland to thoroughly search and make sure that Brian Laundrie is not within these woods. Now, Brian is described as a white male, about 5 foot 8 inches tall and weighing about 160 pounds. You can see his picture there on the screen right now. He has brown eyes, short brown hair, and facial hair, and he was last seen wearing a hiking bag with a waist strap. Now, again, search crews have begun their search here as of 9:30 this morning, just looking for any sign of Brian Laundrie at this time. Live in Venice, Calvin Lewis, Fox 4.
Your art might be more valuable than you think. Earn from your passion with Printful. We'll be your canvas for authentic expression. Don't keep you to yourself.
They are focusing in certain areas based off what we saw from the flight path. So we'll have to kind of wait and see what happens today. We haven't seen any, I have not seen any choppers out here just yet, but we have seen continued activity, you know, sheriffs, deputies, dive teams, airboats coming in and out. So we, of course, will keep you posted on if we hear anything out here. And like I said, it's going to be really, really helpful, I think, when we get some eyes up in the sky to see what exactly is going on from that aerial view. It really is huge to kind of give us some good perspective and a really great vantage point of exactly what's happening out there.
Allison Henning reporting for us at Carlton Reserve here, folks. Allison, follow her, folks, on Twitter. Follow her on social media, really leading the way here as far as her team coverage on the ground in Sarasota County. She knows Sarasota County. It is, of course, her beat here at WFLA Absolutely. News Channel 8. So, hey, Allison, a big thanks from Walt and I. We're going to continue the conversation here. We'll let you get to it, and we'll see you tonight on WFLA News Channel 8.
All right, talk to you guys later.
All right, talk to you later, Allison. All right, Allison Henning reporting for us, folks. I'm serious. Give her a follow on social media. One of the best. Again, Walt Buteau, JB Buno here with you live now. We're going to continue the conversation here. The search for Brian grinds on at the Carlton Reserve here. But is Brian here? Somewhere in the center of your screen, this vast 25,000 acre reserve here. The search area, of course, really honed in on one area of the reserve, but is Brian here? We, for the first time here, Walt, and I know that you and I have done this many times here with your investigations, where on your side, senior investigator Walt Buteau here with us, everybody on the right side of your screen. Walt will have an investigation. And of course, we'll ask a question here to our audience. And one of the things that we can do is ask you in the form of an interactive poll here. And Walt, I don't know about you. I think it goes to you as well. But overnight, even as I was getting notifications at midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. around the world. People are my WFLA JB Instagram account, Twitter, Facebook, people who were trying to get a hold of me and saying, Brian's here. No, Brian's there. I think Brian's here. And so for the first time here, folks, exclusively on Facebook Live, it's on Facebook Live, on the WFLA Facebook page, for those of you joining us, if you want to contribute to this, we just have a poll. I'm very curious to see, because, again, we've been inundated with so many comments and questions as to where Brian is located. And, of course, the FBI has more information, or the most information here as far as the search for Brian Laundrie. But there's just so many people saying, oh, I think he's here. I think he's in Florida. I think he's fled the country. I think that he's in Alabama. I think that he's here. So we have opened up here on the WFLA Facebook page an interactive poll here, asking you very simply here, where do you think Brian Laundrie is? And we have three options for you if you join us here on Facebook Live. And those three options are at Carlton Reserve, which is, of course, the search area that you're looking at here in the center of your screen, elsewhere in the United States, or outside of the U.S., because those are the three most common messages that I've received on my accounts, that he's somewhere here, he's somewhere else in Florida or in the U.S., or he has led the country. I've received a lot of messages. People are like, there's no way he's in the U.S. based on what we know here at this time. And the online sleuthing that we've been talking about, Walt, is considerable.
It's on hyperdrive, man.
It is.
I actually, I think because of my appearances on this forum here, I think I told you podcasters out of Australia reached out to me to do a taped version of a show like this, but recorded. And they were asking questions that they did not know the details of how our system works, really. And also, I think we take for granted everybody knows what the area that Brian and Gabby were going to take a journey through. Everybody sort of assumes the world knows what that looks like, but it's a big country, and I think people are fascinated by this because it covers so much area, and now they've just been drawn in by the social media impact and visuals like this right here. They have questions and they want answers, and I don't think we can give them to them fast enough. But it's a story that I think we said yesterday and on last week seems to have a new startling development almost every day.
So how the poll works, and I see a lot of comments about the poll here. Again, it's conducted through Facebook Live, and the poll, usually people are like, where is it? It takes several minutes of watching on Facebook Live, usually for it to pop up on your device, and then you can tap, whether you're on mobile or you're on your computer, wherever, or your tablet. It'll take several minutes of watching on Facebook. So if you want to watch on Twitter, or if you want to watch on YouTube or WFLA.com, you can continue to do so, but you can hop over to Facebook. It'll take a few minutes of watching here for the poll to populate on your screen. You vote, and then within the next half hour, we're going to come to your results. But I can tell you, we have already received 4,367 votes in
how
this
long?
poll in the last 21 minutes. Oh, no, 20
Wow.
minutes. 20 minutes since
Wow.
the poll's been active. All right, let's take some of your hashtag HeyJB. Before I open up the floor here to the hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyWalt comments that are coming in here, Walt, is there anything over the last 24 hours since you were last on stream that caught your eye, or anything you want to point out to our viewers?
I'll tell you what Allison just told us, I think is fascinating, that this place is 75% water.
Yeah.
That's, in some ways, that narrows the search down, right? Because now we have, what's 25% of 25,000 acres? Now we're down to 5,000 acres of land. But in another way to look at it, it makes the search much more difficult. And tracking experts will tell you that if you know how not to be tracked, water is one way to do that. The dive team development is interesting to me because it makes you wonder, are they under the impression there could be a body, Brian's body out there, that he's not alive? Because otherwise, why? Unless with the dive team they're looking for evidence in the case, that could be. And again, Allison had another good point that we've made here, JB, is that law enforcement is not going to share everything with us, and we understand that. Mm-hmm. They have a crime to investigate. They have a person to find, and they if they find him, when they find him, they want to be able to question him in a way where he can't say, oh well. They want him to reveal something he shouldn't have known, unless he was closely involved with this incident. And they don't want him to be able to say, oh, I heard that on Channel 8. So they keep things close to their vest. And I think they also do not want us to know, and I get this too, what sort of technology they use to search for the guy. And then one other point, back to your original question, is obviously the most startling thing that we had was at 5:02, I think it was, the FBI's I think it was released in a tweet, again talking about social media, right? That this is now a homicide. The cause of death still undetermined. I had somebody just ask me on Twitter, how long till we get the autopsy results? We were told Monday or so that 2 to 3 weeks in that part of the country to get autopsy results. But if they have a cause of death, will they release that first? The nation's hungry for information. The world's hungry for information. We may have that cause of death sooner than we think.
Let's see if we can bring in some of the questions and comments that are coming in here. And what we're gonna do is, here, folks, we're just gonna I have to hit a couple buttons here to just bring up our poll. Our comments and questions that are coming in here. And let's see. Okay, we have a lot of comments and questions in the queue here. And Walt, we're going to come right to you here with some of the questions and comments that are coming in. Cheryl Cass, hashtag JB. What was the determination of the cause of the autopsy for Gabby? And we don't have a cause of death here in this case at this time.
We have a manner of death. Homicide is what it was determined. And I'll pull that up to read the exact wording, but we have a manner of death. We do not have a cause of death. And keep in mind, now, we know that.
I'd like to taste a real Italian coffee, please.
What is the real Italian coffee?
Espresso. Espresso or Americano?
You mean black coffee?
Yes, Lavazza. Discover the Italian coffee experience in all its forms. Lavazza, more than Italian.
These consumers turned to me months after their purchases, worried about why Carvana could not obtain the title to their cars. And tonight, the serious question, what's the holdup?
Because obviously something's going on here.
Michael Johnston had his eye on an Infiniti SUV for a
have a cause of death. And keep in mind, now, we know that.
Right to you here with some of the questions and comments that are coming in. Cheryl Cass, hashtag JB. What was the determination of the cause of the autopsy for Gabby? And we don't have a cause of death here in this case at this time.
We have a manner of death. Homicide is what it was determined. And I'll pull that up to read the exact wording, but we have a manner of death. We do not have a cause of death. And keep in mind, now, we know that.
WFLA Now will begin momentarily. WFLA Now will begin momentarily. Streaming live on WFLA Now, powered by 1-800-ASK-GARY. Here's J.B. Buno.
Gabby Petito's death officially ruled a homicide, and an FBI-led criminal investigation and the search for Brian Laundrie remains focused today on a dense, swampy area near Venice, Florida, an area that is presenting a lot of complications here. We bring you the latest from the scene, including divers now at the search area. The search for Brian Laundrie continues. Hey there, folks. J.B. Buno here with you live on WFLA Now. You can continue to share to help here as we continue to get the word out here on the story. We've got team coverage here for you on WFLA Now. We're going to be hearing from 8 on your side, senior investigator Walt PETITO with us here at WFLA. But I want to begin here in a moment with 8 on your side's Allison Henning, who's live there at Carlton Reserve at the search area. We want to let you know here, folks, as we've been doing here on WFLA Now, we're going to be here live with you for some time over the course of this afternoon here, taking your questions. And if you've been with us here before, you know how this works, but I'm going to repeat this here for our new audience. Hello there, welcome, JB, Walt, Allison, across your screen here. And as we look across your screen here, you can see all the hashtags here on your screen on those yellow stripes. Hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyWalt, hashtag HeyAllison. We're going to be featuring your questions and your comments. You are very much part of this ongoing story now here as the search for Brian Laundrie continues and the calls for justice for Gabby grows louder and louder. So we're going to look for your hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyWalt, hashtag HeyAllison comments in the Facebook Live, Twitter, and YouTube Live comment sections beginning right now. But first, we send things over to 8 on your side's Allison Henning here live at Carlton Reserve. Hey there, Allison.
Hey, JB. Yeah, so this is the 4th day of ground searches happening out here at the Carlton Reserve. Law enforcement search crews, K9 teams were out here over the weekend. They were actually on the far east side of this massive preserve. It's about 25,000 acres. Now they are on the west side, or toward the middle and the west side here on the Venice side of the preserve. There was a brief break on Monday where it was only aerial searches that were happening out here, but those ground searches picked back up yesterday and continued first thing this morning. So one thing that's interesting that we've seen throughout the morning today, water elements coming out here to the preserve. We did see a flatbed truck with piping coming out here. We also saw airboats as well as dive teams just pulling up in the last 10 minutes or so. The Sarasota County Surf Team, that stands for the Sheriff's Underwater Recovery Force. So I want to go ahead and kind of give you a look at what we are seeing out here right now. This is as close as we are able to get to where this search is happening for Brian Laundrie. We are at the corner of South Moon Drive and Border Road, I believe. Again, in the Venice area right now. Of course, we're kind of limited in terms of what we can see from the ground, but we are being able to see what, is pulling in, what types of different resources are coming in to be a part of this search today.
Allison, we're gonna hear from Walt here in just a moment, but for our audience that's joining us here, everybody, on WFLA Now, again, you can see there at the bottom of your screen, divers at the search area for Brian Laundrie. Allison, I want to just point this out here for our viewers. We don't know if the divers are here on standby, awaiting, of course, any assignment here in the area, or if the divers are part of anything active here at this time. But it's very possible that the divers are just here on standby here in the event that this search goes underwater.
Yeah. Yesterday we heard, again, as I mentioned, 25,000 acres. This is a very vast property that we're talking about out here. And yesterday the commander with Northport PD, who's leading this local search out here, told us that about 75% of the grounds here, including some of the trails, are actually underwater. So the terrain has been really challenging for the search crews who are out here. I personally did not see any airboats or dive teams or anything like that out here yesterday, throughout the several hours that we were out here yesterday. So it does appear that, the search could potentially be moving underwater or further through water, just because it has been a challenge for them. They did mention that yesterday. 75% of 25,000 acres underwater. So I know it was a hurdle for them. It looks like they're working on ways to overcome that.
Allison, it's Walt back at the station. Have they what are the temperatures like out there, humidity wise, and have they mentioned how that might be impacting them as far as being in their gear, out in the middle of all this, mosquitoes, snakes, alligators, all this stuff. There's 75% of water is daunting, by the way, but how are the temps, and do we know how it might be impacting the officers who are searching?
Well, I can tell you from my perspective, it only takes a few seconds from when you get out of your car for you to start kind of sweating and dripping. It's definitely very, very hot out here, especially when the sun starts peeking through. It was cloudy earlier this morning, but now that the sun's peeking through, it gets hot really fast. The humidity, usually for the ladies, the hair is an indicator of that, and I can tell you it is very, very humid out here. It's kind of oppressive heat. Actually, there's really no breeze, so I can only imagine what those crews are going through out there. Yesterday, Northport PD calling the terrain out here unforgiving because of the snakes, the gators, just them having to wade through waist-deep water. So, yeah, definitely not easy conditions for these search crews, and there are dozens of them out here from agencies all across the region right now.
Allison, I'll ask you a question here as far as the multi-agency effort here. We had Governor Ron DeSantis tweet out, of course, recently that he was going to be providing any and all state agency efforts under his purview to assist. Of course, we know that we have the FBI leading the efforts here on the ground. We know that Northport Police, of course, actively involved there at the scene. Have there been any state resources that you've seen here as far as getting federal, local, and state authorities involved here at Carlton Reserve?
Yes, definitely. Just yesterday we saw flying overhead, circling this area, an FWC chopper. We also saw some of the FWC vehicles coming in and out of this entrance area here, going both down this roadway as well as Border Road here, which goes kind of all the way down. So yeah, definitely have seen state resources out here. Aside from FWC, I personally, Justin, I'm not sure if you've seen any other state resources outside of FWC. That's kind of all I've seen out here. It's been, Sarasota County Sheriff's Office, Sarasota PD, Sarasota County Search and Rescue K-9, a lot of local agencies out here just helping out, pitching in how they can. But in terms of, the search from the sky, we did see that FWC chopper quite a few times yesterday, in addition to the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office chopper that was out here. One thing I did want to point out, we're able to, track different flights that these choppers take. And one thing that was pointed out to me yesterday, and we were able to actually see the track of one of the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office choppers that was out here. And they were actually circling an area over and over again. And inside that area, there were, a few different, it's hard for me to grasp from the ground here how big they are. I'm just looking on Google Maps to kind of gauge the size, but ponds, lakes, bodies of water, right? And kind of circling that area. So it'll be curious. I'm curious to see once, Paul Lamison gets up in the sky from Eagle 8 HD, to see where that surf team, that dive team with the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office is stationed right now. Are they at the command center, or are they out where we saw that Sheriff's Office helicopter circling yesterday near those bodies of water? So that's something we're going to have to wait to see once we have some eyes in the sky.
Allison, one question I got yesterday, and I think it's a good one. So sometime around 5:02 yesterday, this became a homicide case, according to the FBI, and people asked how the search might change. Do we notice any additional officers out there today? Has it become more intense, or is it about the same as it was?
Well, I did ask Northport PD how many individuals were out here yesterday, because they did describe, obviously different agencies, several agencies from across the region out here. They said there were about 50 individuals was the guesstimate that they gave me yesterday. And just from the activity that we've seen this morning coming in and out in terms of, the vehicles coming in, the four-wheelers, the ATVs, stuff like that, it does appear to be more. Even Northport PD tweeting right around 9:30 this morning, kind of showing an overview of all the crews that are out here today. It did appear to be greater in size compared to yesterday, but we're still waiting to get an exact number from Northport PD, who is leading this local search under the FBI criminal investigation that's going on right now into all of this. So once we get that information, we of course can pass that along to you. But just, as a benchmark, yesterday we were told around 50 individuals.
Allison, is there any information that we have here as regards to the search efforts here at Carlton Reserve ending at sundown? We've had we've been inundated with questions as to whether or not the search can continue at night. And I know that we don't have access to this information all that much now that this is an FBI-led criminal investigation and an FBI-led search effort. But there's just been so many questions on social media as to whether or not thermal imaging chopper technology can be used here from the sky overnight here to continue the search efforts, to continue looking through some of this area. Have you heard or had any indication as to why, A, that technology may or may not, we don't know if it is or isn't being used, but do you have any information pertaining to that technology being used in an overnight capacity to continue this search here around the clock?
I do not have that information, but we do know just, from stories I have done in the past with these different agencies that are involved in this, that technology, they do have that technology. I know in this case in general, the Northport PD was pretty open with us, telling us that there is a lot of information that they are not releasing to the public, to the media, or anything like that, because, they want to protect different elements of this investigation. So that could be information that they are withholding. I just don't know. But, I know they are doing everything they can to assist the FBI. I know Northport PD, they did send us that message last night telling us that they're going to kind of stop for tonight and resume tomorrow morning. That message, I believe, came in right around 7 o'clock. Obviously, the sun's starting to come down a little earlier. But yeah, I can't be for sure if, there are people out here throughout the night or choppers circling throughout the night with that kind of technology.
Again, if you're just joining us here, folks, JB Buno, lead on your side, Senior Investigator Walt PETITO, and Allison Henney, who's live for us at Carlton Reserve. We can take your questions and comments using hashtag Allison, hashtag Walt, hashtag JB. And we're going to start here with Charmaine's comment here in the Facebook Live. Actually, no, we're gonna come to Charmaine's comment here in just a second. Actually, the first question that we're going to take is from the UK. From Karen here, and it's one that I want to bring up here because Allison can contribute to this conversation here, but it's something that I didn't think about. Of course, we note that divers are here now at the scene. An underwater recovery and rescue team is here at the scene now. In fact, let's show you the video now. There you can see it from Sarasota County here. This is video that was shot by Allison's cell phone within the last 20 minutes. But Karen here asking, and we'll start with you here, Allison, hashtag JB, hashtag Walt, hi from the United Kingdom. Isn't it dangerous underwater for the divers with alligators and snakes, etc.?
Yeah, it definitely can be. Like I mentioned, unforgiving is the word that they used yesterday. We have not been able to get out there ourselves, but Northport PD was out there yesterday taking video, shooting some video for us to kind of give us a better understanding of what kind of conditions they're dealing with out there. It really is, the best word I can think of is rugged. This is Florida. This is Southwest Florida, and you can hear the noise of the wildlife out here. It's muggy, it's swampy, snakes, gators. Yeah, those are all real threats that these search crews are gonna have to deal with. So we haven't heard of anyone, getting bitten or anything like that. But it's something that they said is a real threat for them and a real challenge for them as they continue the search for Brian Laundrie.
Allison, we're gonna let you go here in just a moment and continue taking some more hashtag JB, hashtag Walt comments and questions here from, again, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. But before we let you go, Allison, here, one of the questions I want to ask you before we let you go is, we're now on day number 5 of the search here for Brian Laundrie. Day 4, as I understand it, here from Carlton Reserve. How long will the FBI stay committed to this search area here at Carlton Reserve near Venice, Florida? You of course, have been noting that they have really, based on, again, you can look it up on your phone, folks. You can look on flight radar and you can see the path of the chopper and what they're doing there from the sky with GPS and, of course, tracking technology. But Allison, this is now day 4 of the search efforts here at Carlton Reserve, and yes, a lot of that has been focused on different areas, and we've been bouncing from side to side here, or from one side to the other. But is there any indication or any feeling out there as to how long they're going to stay committed to this search area when we have a ton of commenters here wondering aloud, and I read them here all the time, I see them across Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, wondering aloud here, could Brian be elsewhere? Could all of these resources be pooled into this one area, and Brian isn't here to begin with?
Right. So obviously the reason that the agencies came out here to begin with was because of a conversation that they had with Brian's parents on Friday when he was first reported missing. They told law enforcement that he was last seen, they last saw him, they claimed to have last seen him last Tuesday when he left the home to go for a hike. He had his hiking gear, and they said that he came here to the Carlton Reserve. So that was kind of the first element that brought the law enforcement agencies and the search crews out here. it's interesting that they were not out here on the ground from what they told us on Monday. They only did an aerial search on Monday, but then first thing Tuesday morning, they announced, hey, we're back out here at Carlton Reserve again, this time on the Venice side. And of course, you have to keep in mind just the conditions, the rugged terrain, the heat, the snakes, the gators, all that stuff. Rough conditions to be going through, if perhaps you're not hoping to find something. So I can't say for sure, when they might stop. I think we all thought over the weekend on Monday morning when they said, hey, we're not out there today, that was it. But then they came back out. So, we waited until they ended the search last night for them to tell us we're going to be back out again tomorrow doing the same kind of thing. And then, of course, we see the dive teams coming out. We see the airboats coming out. We see piping, tubing, perhaps pumps coming out on flatbeds. Of course, 75% of the area out here covered in water. So sounds like they still have some area to cover. 25,000 acres is what we're talking about. That is a vast, vast chunk of land that they are searching through. And yesterday, Northport PD, they told us that they've covered thousands of acres. They couldn't give us an exact acreage. I'm sure they're kind of, doing a certain process that they haven't disclosed to us. But yeah, it sounds like they are focusing in certain areas based off what we saw from the flight path. So we'll have to kind of wait and see what happens today. I have not seen any choppers out here just yet, but we have seen continued activity, sheriffs, deputies, dive teams, airboats coming in and out. So we, of course, will keep you posted on if we hear anything out here. And like I said, it's going to be really, really helpful, I think, when we get some eyes up in the sky to see what exactly is going on from that aerial view. It really is huge to kind of give us some good perspective and a really great vantage point of exactly what's happening out there.
Allison Henning reporting for us at Carlton Reserve here, folks. Allison, follow her, folks, on Twitter. Follow her on social media, really leading the way here as far as her team coverage on the ground in Sarasota County. She knows Sarasota County. It is, of course, her beat here at WFLA
Absolutely.
News Channel 8. So, hey, Allison, a big thanks from Walt and I. We're going to continue the conversation here. We'll let you get to it, and we'll see you tonight on WFLA News Channel 8.
All right, talk to you guys later.
All right, talk to you later, Allison. All right, Allison Henning reporting for us, folks. I'm serious. Give her a follow on social media. One of the best. Again, Walt Buteau, JB Buno here with you live now. We're going to continue the conversation here. The search for Brian grinds on at the Carlton Reserve here. But is Brian here? Somewhere in the center of your screen, this vast 25,000 acre reserve here. The search area, of course, really honed in on one area of the reserve, but is Brian here? We, for the first time here, Walt, and I know that you and I have done this many times here with your investigations, where on your side, senior investigator Walt Buteau here with us, everybody on the right side of your screen. Walt will have an investigation. And of course, we'll ask a question here to our audience. And one of the things that we can do is ask you in the form of an interactive poll here. And Walt, I don't know about you. I think it goes to you as well. But overnight, even as I was getting notifications at midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. around the world. People are my WFLA JB Instagram account, Twitter, Facebook, people who were trying to get a hold of me and saying, Brian's here. No, Brian's there. I think Brian's here. And so for the first time here, folks, exclusively on Facebook Live, it's on Facebook Live, on the WFLA Facebook page, for those of you joining us, if you want to contribute to this, we just have a poll. I'm very curious to see, because again, we've been inundated with so many comments and questions as to where Brian is located. And of course, the FBI has more information, or the most information here as far as the search for Brian Laundrie. But there's just so many people saying, oh, I think he's here. I think he's in Florida. I think he's fled the country. I think that he's in Alabama. I think that he's here. So we have opened up here on the WFLA Facebook page an interactive poll here, asking you very simply here, where do you think Brian Laundrie is? And we have three options for you if you join us here on Facebook Live. And those three options are at Carlton Reserve, which is, of course, the search area that you're looking at here in the center of your screen, elsewhere in the United States, or outside of the U.S., because those are the three most common messages that I've received on my accounts, that he's somewhere here, he's somewhere else in Florida or in the U.S., or he has fled the country. I've received a lot of messages. People are like, there's no way he's in the U.S. based on what we know here at this time. And the online sleuthing that we've been talking about, Walt, is considerable.
It's on hyperdrive, man.
It is.
I actually, I think because of my appearances on this forum here, I think I told you podcasters out of Australia reached out to me to do a taped version of a show like this, but recorded, and they were asking questions that they did not know the details of how our system works really. And also, I think we take for granted everybody knows what the area that Brian and Gabby were going to take a journey through. Everybody sort of assumes the world knows what that looks like, but it's a big country, and I think people are fascinated by this because it covers so much area, and now they've just been drawn in by the social media impact and visuals like this right here. They have questions and they want answers, and I don't think we can give them to them fast enough. But it's a story that I think we said yesterday and on last week seems to have a new startling development almost every day.
So how the poll works, and I see a lot of comments about the poll here. Again, it's conducted through Facebook Live, and the poll, usually people are like, where is it? It takes several minutes of watching on Facebook Live, usually for it to pop up on your device, and then you can tap, whether you're on mobile or you're on your computer, wherever, or your tablet. It'll take several minutes of watching on Facebook. So if you want to watch on Twitter, or if you want to watch on YouTube or WFLA.com, you can continue to do so, but you can hop over to Facebook. It'll take a few minutes of watching here for the poll to populate on your screen. You vote, and then within the next half hour, we're going to come to your results. But I can tell you, we have already received 4,367 votes in this poll.
Long?
In the last 21 minutes. Oh, no, 20 minutes. 20 minutes since the poll's been active. All right, let's take some of your hashtag HeyJB. Before I open up the floor here to the hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyWalt comments that are coming in here. Walt, is there anything over the last 24 hours since you were last on stream that caught your eye, or anything you want to point out to our viewers?
I'll tell you what Allison just told us, I think is fascinating, that this place is 75% water.
Yeah.
That's in some ways that narrows the search down, right? Because now we have 25% of 25,000 acres. Now we're down to 5,000 acres of land. But in another way to look at it, it makes the search much more difficult. And tracking experts will tell you that if you know how not to be tracked, water is one way to do that. The dive team development is interesting to me because it makes you wonder, are they under the impression there could be a body, Brian's body out there, that he's not alive? Because otherwise, why? Unless with the dive team they're looking for evidence in the case, that could be. And again, Allison had another good point that we've made here, JB, is that law enforcement is not going to share everything with us, and we understand that. Mm-hmm. They have a crime to investigate. They have a person to find, and they if they find him, when they find him, they want to be able to question him in a way where he can't say, oh well. They want him to reveal something he shouldn't have known, unless he was closely involved with this incident. And they don't want him to be able to say, oh, I heard that on Channel 8. So they keep things close to their vest. And I think they also do not want us to know, and I get this too, what sort of technology they use to search for the guy. And then one other point, back to your original question, is obviously the most startling thing that we had was at 5:02, I think it was, the FBI's I think it was released in a tweet, again talking about social media, right? That this is now a homicide. The cause of death still undetermined. I had somebody just ask me on Twitter, how long till we get the autopsy results? We were told Monday or so that 2 to 3 weeks in that part of the country to get autopsy results. But if they have a cause of death, will they release that first? The nation's hungry for information. The world's hungry for information. We may have that cause of death sooner than we think.
Let's see if we can bring in some of the questions and comments that are coming in here. And what we're gonna do is, here, folks, we're just gonna I have to hit a couple buttons here to just bring up our poll. Our comments and questions that are coming in here. And let's see. Okay, we have a lot of comments and questions in the queue here. And Walt, we're going to come right to you here with some of the questions and comments that are coming in. Cheryl Cass, hashtag JB, what was the determination of the cause of the autopsy for Gabby? And we don't have a cause of death here in this case at this time.
We have a manner of death. Homicide is what it was determined. And I'll pull that up to read the exact wording, but we have a manner of death. We do not have a cause of death. And keep in mind, now, we know that.
Feel the clarity of non-drowsy children's Claritin allergy relief, the #1 pediatrician recommended non-drowsy brand. Because to a kid, a grassy hill is irresistible. Children's Claritin. Feel the clarity and live Claritin Clear.
New details in a case that has certainly gripped the nation as the search for Gabby Petito's fiancé Brian Laundrie picks up steam after Wyoming's coroner officially confirmed the human remains found near a national park belonged to Gabby Petito and the cause of death was ruled a homicide. So with that being said, the search continues. Let's get to Holly with the latest.
Big news in the case, Steve. Officials returned to a Florida nature preserve as they continue to search for Gabby Petito's fiance. Now, he was originally wanted for questioning in Gabby Petito's disappearance, but is now an official person of interest in her death. He has not been seen since September 14th after his family says he told them he was headed for a hike at the preserve, but never returned. Search teams were seen combing through the swampy 25,000-acre preserve using canines, drones, and ATVs. But thick foliage covering a lot of it is making the search a challenge.
Terrain's very difficult. Essentially, 75% of it's underwater. We're expecting to get wet by the end of the day and check the entire area for Brian Laundrie.
On Monday, investigators removed evidence from the Laundrie home as well as towing the gray Mustang that Laundrie was said to have been driving. Meanwhile, we got a look at an aerial shot of Grand Teton National Park where the body of Gabby Petito was found over the weekend. Yesterday, Brian Laundrie's attorney was set to hold a press briefing but canceled it, saying it was not in his client's best interest.
You know, it's fascinating as well when you look at this case, Hall, and just the citizen sleuths that have been contributing to this, not just in helping to locate her body, but now checking the trail cams in the area where they're searching for him. A lot of online investigators pitching in.
Oh, yeah, definitely getting a lot of social media attention for sure.
Law enforcement vehicles can be seen in a staging area. They are combing the Carlton Reserve in a renewed effort to find Brian Laundrie. Fox 13's Kimberly Quizon is live at the reserve. Kim, what can you tell us?
Well, Linda, just before 8, well, actually just after 8 this morning, the Northport Police Department tweeted out that they'd be resuming the search here in the Carlton Reserve, and this time on the Venice side. Now, there are 25,000 acres in the reserve, and this past weekend, agencies combed through a portion of the reserve near the Myakkahatchee area in Northport. Now, today we've seen canines with Sarasota Canine Search and Rescue going into the reserve, along with law enforcement officers on ATVs and other vehicles. Now, Brian Laundrie was known to frequent the reserve, according to his parents. And with his skills, if he's in here, he'd be able to handle the elements. Right there, you're seeing law enforcement officers go into the reserve as the search continues. Now, the Carlton Reserve right now is muddy. There's a lot of standing water that's turned into a swampy marsh. And that, of course, draws out snakes and, of course, alligators. These are all elements searchers are handling. And for those who frequent the reserve, they say they found closed signs, and those conditions can be tough, even for people who go in and out of the reserve on a regular basis.
Carlton Reserve is a big mess right now. It's all the rain we've had. I ride my bike out there quite often, and you just sink in. It's not worth it. There's so much water. Like normally when you go out there in the wintertime when it's dry, you see all kinds of alligators. There's so much water you don't even see the alligators. I wouldn't want to be out there.
And take a look at this. This is some video showing what the reserve looks at. Josh Taylor, the public information officer for Northport Police, has been tweeting out some videos of the terrain. Again, it's thick, muddy, and at times, quote, unforgiving. And why law enforcement officers are back out here at this portion of the reserve is still unknown at this point in time. We know yesterday the search at the Carlton Reserve near the Northport area was called off as investigators said they had exhausted all search avenues. Now, yesterday, a search warrant was executed at the Laundrie home in Northport. It's still unclear at this point in time if anything from that search warrant has led them to this location. Linda, back to you.
Yeah, Kim, you may not have the answer to this, but I'm just curious. I know that the Laundrie's family attorney had scheduled a press conference for this afternoon and then canceled it. Do we know anything about that?
And well, we do know that that press conference was canceled right around the time that the FBI search warrant was executed. We're not certain at this point.
Good after. This is from Josh Taylor, City of Northport Police. Of course, we had Josh on Friday night on WFLA Now, so I'm going to read this word for word here. Good afternoon. Below is another link to some video and sound with Commander Joe Fussell of the NPPD as the search for Brian Laundrie continues. And then, of course, a link for that video. We have received a number of questions about underwater dive vehicles entering the Carlton. Area resources are looking at large bodies of water, including dive teams, boats, and sonar equipment. At this time, this does not mean anything has been found. It's part of the overall search process. Additionally, right now, NPPD is on the scene of a possible self-inflicted death roughly 1 mile from the environmental park. Nothing to do with this case.
Wow, great. We appreciate Josh Taylor putting that out there because that will start the rumor mill flying.
This is first and foremost just credit to Josh here for a second in that he's trying to get ahead of all of the gossip that would there would be scanner traffic. We know how many people are listening to the scanners in Sarasota County right now. Well, this is actually a really shrewd move here by Josh to get ahead of the social media activity that is out there by saying, that there is a possible self-inflicted death 1 mile away from the environmental park, but it has, he says, nothing to do with this case. Believe me, folks, if there was a chance that it did have something to do with this case, I think that we would have some indication of that here in this sort of a press release. I don't think Josh is the type here to he's going to say nothing to do with this case, and I of course, I believe him. So, additionally, right now, NPPD is on the scene of a possible self-inflicted death roughly 1 mile from the environmental park, but it has nothing to do with the search for Brian Laundrie here. But interesting here that they are searching this area very thoroughly, and they found something, but not what this search is intended to find at this time.
What that is something that we're going to get a bunch of questions about, I bet, because of that. That's very interesting that it's within 1 mile of this area, and
and I want you to continue here, Walt, because I don't mean to interrupt you. I'm just getting in word now that this video is coming into our system here at WFLA. So we're going to play back this video that Josh is talking about the dive teams, boats, sonar equipment, all of the necessary equipment to continue a search of this magnitude. It's all being brought in here, and the video is going to be coming in here in just a moment. In fact, I think it is now officially in our system here. What we're going to do is we're going to play this back here for you directly from YouTube here, and we'll just kind of listen in. There's likely a lot of audio on the video, and then we'll come back and we'll play it back here again and discuss it here with you. But this is new video now that is coming in here to the Northport Police Department, from the Northport Police Department. And again, this is similar to the video as we understand it from yesterday. And we'll have, as I understand it too here, make sure I have this right. Yes, we're gonna have some sound here, an interview to listen to here as well. So let's make sure I have this right, and I do. Okay, and here is that video now playing in the center of your screen. Let's listen in.
out here doing today?
We're out here with our law enforcement partners. We're searching for Brian Laundrie in the Carlton Preserve. We've deployed numerous resources, and we are trying to cover every acre in this preserve.
What's it like? I mean, we've been out here a number of days. How are people feeling?
I tell you, these guys, our law enforcement partners, they're motivated and they're hungry to find Brian Laundrie. They're ambitious to partner with us. So working with them has been great, and we really appreciate the partnership that we have with them.
But it's got to be rough.
It's rough out there. Yeah, it's rough out there. It's hot. It's wet.
So that was the actual raw upload there. So you saw it kind of abruptly cut away from the interview, and that was directly from YouTube via Northport Police. And Walt was saying it here while our mics were off, and I would like to share the same sentiment. For them to be providing a video update of this kind, it's very, very helpful to kind of just let people know what's going on here on the ground, because we don't have access, of course, to show you what's going on here. Let's listen in here one more time.
Our law enforcement partners, we're searching for Brian Laundrie in the Carlton Preserve. We've deployed numerous resources, and we are trying to cover every acre in this preserve.
What's it like? I mean, we've been out here a number of days. How are people feeling?
I tell you, these guys, our law enforcement partners, they're motivated and they're hungry to find Brian Laundrie. They're ambitious to partner with us. So working with them has been great, and we really appreciate the partnership that we have with them.
But it's got to be rough.
It's rough out there. Yeah, it's rough out there. It's hot. It's wet.
And there you have it here, folks. Yeah, and to be able to give us some insight as to what's going on deep in this search area here as we listen in to some of the audio. The dogs are the superheroes. I keep saying this. Our four-legged friends here in this video are the superheroes of this story, potentially, because they can pick up on the scent of Brian Laundrie if he's here. And I'm very curious to know if they have. If there's any indication, of course, the officers here, the expertly trained officers here that work with these canines, they know to a degree if the dog is picked up on the scent. And I'm just curious to know, Walt, if the scent has been picked up here at Carlton Reserve.
You know, the best explanation I ever had about a canine for their sense of smell was from an officer in Texas, and he told me, Walt, if you walked into a kitchen and someone was cooking beef stew, you smell the beef stew. The dog can smell separately the carrots, the peas, the beef, the salt, the pepper. Maybe not the salt, but you get my idea. Their sense of smell is so strong, and we do know that the search began the day after we first saw police go into Brian Laundrie's home. That would be Friday. That's also the day his parents said they hadn't seen him since Tuesday, and he was in Carlton Reserve. But you wonder, and we talked about this before, at that point, do you grab a piece of his clothing and give it to the dogs? And then we know the FBI went in there Monday, and again, then the search resumed the next day. So yeah, the sense of smell is huge, although I believe Masa Saidi had a search expert on last night on WFLA, and he said, obviously, the water does hamper what a dog can do. So it's sort of two things sort of playing against each other. But 25% land there, if we take it the opposite way, 75% water. That's about 5,000 acres of land. And we are told 80 miles of trails. So there is still a lot of land to search, even though most of the reserve is actually water.
Let's get to... we're going to break down more of Josh Taylor's update here in a second. We're going to get to more. We know that there are hundreds, if not thousands by now, across all of our platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyWalt comments here. We're going to rapid fire, go through as many as we can in the queue here coming up. But we went down, as I was mentioning earlier, we went down on our previous live stream. We lost internet here, and it cut off our streams to Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. So we've started a second live stream here, and that was happening, as I understand it, right as we were reading this. This is a letter here from the law office of Richard B. Stafford. That is the Gabby Petito and Nicole Schmidt family attorney here, and it is a strong-worded letter here for the Laundrie family attorney here. And I'm going to read this here word for word, and I'd like to get some hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyWalt comments going here as to your reaction to this, because this is an interesting note here. And again, from the law office of Richard B. Stafford, attorney at law. Mr. Bertolino, who is the Laundrie family attorney. The Petito and Schmidt family are demanding that you remove Gabby Petito's picture from your Yelp page. That webpage is www.yelp.com, and then, of course, the URL continues. The family tried to remove their daughter's picture from your page and were informed that only the business owner can add or remove pictures. Furthermore, the Petito and Schmidt family demand that you cease and desist posting pictures of Gabby Petito to any and all of your social media pages, web pages, or advertisements in an effort to gain business. I am sure this will be taken care of by 2 p.m. Eastern, or I will take further action on behalf of Gabby's family. Sincerely, Richard Benson Stafford, Richard B. Stafford, attorney at law. So this is what we're talking about here, and shout out to Debbie on our assignment desk for printing this out for me. This is talking about the Yelp activity here. Here is a picture on Stephen Bertolino's page here, and this is a strong-worded letter from one family attorney to the other family attorney saying, we don't want you to profit off of the Gabby Petito story, and we don't want you to profit off of this. The exact wording again is here, remove it from all of your social media pages, web pages, or advertisements in an effort to gain business. What do you think?
Strong, and I think, as you see the beginning of that letter, you wonder if that's what they're saying, and then of course they come right out and say it, and that if true, startling, shocking, all those words, it could also be possible that Mr. Bertolino just neglected to take it down. But I would ask, I would have to ask if he held a news conference. He scheduled one for yesterday, and then canceled it up in New York. I would ask him, why did you put it there in the first place?
Well, here's the thing. I believe that the Yelp, and it's pretty evident here that this isn't and I can be, please correct me if I'm wrong to my assignment desk and our team watching here, but I believe that this is from users. This is Yelp reviews that are coming in. Yelp is common for like restaurants, and if you go to a wing joint and you love the wings, you comment and 5 stars and you say this is the greatest wings I've ever had in my life. But there's also Yelp reviews and Yelp feedback for businesses, non-restaurant businesses like lawyers, like attorneys' offices. And this one here is a review that reads as, I'm just going to read it directly. Just if you want to find this, and I'll throw it up here on screen. You can see some of the language there. This is some of the feedback that Stephen Bertolino, the Laundrie attorney, is getting on his Yelp page right now. And
who's sending the feedback?
I believe that the feedback is coming from the public. So I don't know if these pictures and these images, if there's any pictures or images on the Yelp page that was posted by the Stephen Bertolino account, but they are saying the family tried to remove their daughter's picture from your page and were informed that only the business owner can add or remove pictures. That's very similar to us. So Yelp works in a similar fashion as far as comment moderation as Facebook or Twitter or YouTube. We're the only ones here that have the authority to delete or remove comments or reviews, and we can of course moderate that content because we're the administrator on this account and on this page. It's the same for a Yelp account for an attorney, and so I think that this is just saying, hey, get these down. Otherwise, we're going to take further action, and I'd be very curious to see what kind of action that would be. But I would imagine it would be a lawsuit that would be filed on behalf of the Petito and Schmidt families against Stephen Bertolino, attorney of law in East Islip, New York.
And I believe now, do they? She owns those images, I assume, so they might have some power there to make him take it down. But you would hope that just on the request that it would be taken down.
I would really hope that Stephen Bertolino and that attorney's office would understand the sensitivity of the situation,
absolutely,
and play ball here and try to.
Or even the Laundries can reach out to him and say, "Hey, take that down."
Yeah, attorneys don't like being told by other attorneys what to do.
100%.
I think Walt, who's a senior investigator here with us at WFLA,
right,
lawyer,
it's that fight.
many.
They have something that you and I have in us too. It's that determination. And yes, attorneys, that's right. They are paid to argue. And in this case, it's a lot different, I think, because it's a third-party site, right? Yelp. It's sad that we even have to look into something like that right now.
It says cease and desist posting pictures of Gabby Petito to any and all of your social media pages, web pages, or advertisements in an effort to gain business. I'm very curious, and maybe we'll look into this here. Has Stephen Bertolino's accounts directly made any posts with Gabby's picture, or has it just been the public leaving reviews and leaving comments on pages like, on platforms like Yelp? We'll find out. We'll find out here.
Absolutely.
JB Buno, 8 on your side, senior investigator Walt Buteau here with you live. I think, Walt, we were down here for a moment, but how long do you have here with us this afternoon?
I've got plenty of time today. I'm working on a few things, but definitely could stick around, and I think it's worth sticking around for because of what's going on out there, and who knows what'll happen next.
Walt, folks, give him a follow on social media. Again, 8 on your side, senior investigator here with us at WFLA. Give him a follow, folks, on social media.
Always
Go
welcome.
find him. I've received a lot of follows on my WFLA JB and Instagram and Facebook accounts. Folks, Walt is Walt's one of the best in the biz. Give him a follow, folks, on social media. Let's get to some of the questions that are coming in here, and let's get to this one here. Shannon Owens. Yeah, this is the question, Shannon. Thank you for, and again, use #KJB, #KWalt, and of course, share to help. And we'll, of course, try to get as much of this live stream out to our audience here online as possible. But Shannon Owens with the question at this hour. Could this possibly be a wild goose chase? Could he run? So he could run. And oh, man. Police have enough, as we look here at a gorgeous, beautiful, cute dog here that is part of the search efforts, and it diverted my attention there for a second. Apologies. But they have enough, Walt, to commit this amount of resources to this area. And you would think that there's more to this than we know, as Allison was noting earlier, and as you were noting earlier, that there's more that investigators know that leads them to believe that this area warrants a search of this size, scope, and magnitude. And we have a lot of resources being committed here. Aerial resources, ATVs. I'll read it here from Josh Taylor's update here a short time ago. Dive teams, boats, sonar equipment. We believe at this time that based on the size and scope of this search, that there's more that investigators know, of course, that they're not telling the public right now. The FBI leading this search effort and this criminal investigation at this time. And that would lead us to believe that this perhaps isn't a wild goose chase, to Shannon's comment.
I would also argue to some degree that when you're looking for a person of interest, a potential suspect in a homicide, are there wild goose chases? I think you search for everything. It's the one tip you don't look into that turns into the tip you should have looked into. And sometimes police departments and groups of police departments, you want to eliminate an area as much as you want to find the person. I should reverse that. You want to find the person more than you want to eliminate the area, but it's vital to eliminate the area. So I get it. Yeah, wild goose chase, it sure could be 100%, but I think that term's wrong because this is police work. They are trying to narrow down where this guy might be, and this is one spot. This is one spot we know the family sent them to. A lot of people are asking, did the family send them there to send them on a wild goose chase? Well, they've now been here 4 out of the last 5 days. During that time they've had 2 searches of that family's home. I would guess and expect they have a reason to be there. And just because they don't find somebody or something does not mean that reason wasn't worth checking out. You have to eliminate things as much as you have to validate things.
And we have a lot more on this, folks, on these new developments on WFLA.com, the WFLA app. We have our Gabby Petito, Brian Laundrie article hub there. So if you want to read the latest here, I know that a lot of the commenters here are either listening on the road. We have some people that are joining us on the road. We also have people that are Chromecasting this to their televisions at home and listening and participating in any way, shape, or form that they can. But if you'd like to read the latest here, check out, or later on today or tonight or now, check out WFLA.com and the WFLA app where our article hub lives and all of the recent developments on this story. There again, WFLA.com and the WFLA app. So really,
JB, can I chime in for a moment?
Sure.
Because we're getting phone calls, believe it or not, that I have something on my forehead. I actually have a small wound on my forehead from a wrestling match with one of my sons. So it's not anything I can rub off. I apologize. I didn't. It's quite the thing to explain. My wife said, they're going to see that on TV. And I said, no, they won't, but they did. So
that goes to show how much people are watching our live streams here. Is that
it's my son's fault?
Yeah. What's your son's name? Well, you don't have to share. You don't have to share that. You don't have to share that.
I'm not.
You don't have to share that.
There's multiple. There are multiple suspects.
Multiple suspects in the crime that is Walt Peto's forehead.
My forehead. My apologies.
But well, I think I speak for our entire audience, Walt. You don't have to apologize in the slightest. Again, true, one of the best here, folks, as far as investigative journalism here in Florida. And, of course, from his previous station, WPRI, in Rhode Island, in Providence, Rhode Island, Walt is one of the finest. And, again, give him a follow on social media. And ease up on the phone calls, folks, as far as
my forehead.
Please do. Please do. But Shannon, thanks a lot for your comment here. We're going to move on to the next comment here. Tina Davis, #HeyJB. What do you know about some girl saying that she picked up Brian? All right, this is the first time that we're addressing this. I have seen the TikTok videos. There is a woman who says that she picked up Brian in the area, of course, where closer to where Gabby Petito's remains were found. And at this time, there's nothing from law enforcement that leads us to believe that that is a genuine true story. I'm not saying the story isn't true. I know that she has received a massive audience online, on TikTok especially, telling her story and explaining her story in very, very specific detail here. And I am not here to tell you that that isn't true, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you it is true.
Right.
So that could be something that we learn more about, how Brian got from that area of the country back here to Florida. And I want to also point this out here one more time to our audience. And I, as much as I would like to take that woman for her word, let's keep this fact in mind. Brian's description is pretty common. It's pretty common, Walt.
Yeah,
I mean, a guy with a shaved head, and sometimes he has groomed facial hair. Sometimes he's got scruffy facial hair. Sometimes he's completely clean shaven.
You would imagine he'd be scruffy by now.
You would.
And have some hair up there.
Yeah.
23-year-old who shaves his head, it seemed. I will say this, though, and I said this yesterday, how often do we have... We've had surveillance video of suspects or people of interest, but in this case, we have a video where we hear him, we see his mannerisms, we see how he walks, and all those things play into identifying something. We generally don't have that for a suspect or person of interest. And even if we have surveillance video, it's not nearly as clear as that body camera video was from in Moab, Utah. And we also, I think, have a little bit of there's a tattoo on his hand, I believe. I don't recall which hand, but all those things help. So the curious question I would have for the woman who picked this guy up, if she did, what did you do about that? Did you realize it afterwards? If it's true, at what point did you know it was him? Did you know about it afterwards? I
was on Twitter this morning, and I said that what we're going to do is we're going to separate fact from fiction on these live streams, and we remain committed to that because there's so much out there regarding this story that it's our job as journalists here to keep you informed as to what is valid and what isn't valid. And what I'd like to do here is just remind folks that there's so much uncertainty surrounding this case. So that doesn't fall necessarily within the realm of fact or fiction. It's just in an area of unknown between fact and fiction that we just where a lot of variables live right now as far as this story. So I appreciate the question. That's the first time we've had it here as far as the TikToker who said that they picked up Brian Laundrie. And again, if we hear anything about that being a valid story or if it's disproven, we'll let you know about it. So many times have I been messaged on my WFLA JB Instagram account or my Facebook account. People like, JB, look at this. JB, look at this. Oh my God, now they're posting this. Reddit that. TikTok this, TikTok that. And then like an hour later or 2 hours later, I'll just get one word and it'll be like, disregard, unproven, to let us know that like the whole online community sleuthing disproved that claim really quickly, and then it's like, okay, on to the next one, on to the next theory, or on to the next claim, or on to the next piece of internet gossip. And we're gonna keep things rooted in reality, and that is our commitment here to you, here from WFLA. From Stella Mommy on Twitter, hello to our Twitter audience, #HAB. Do they have a TFR today? Yes, they do have a TFR, as I understand it, and it is to 400 feet. But we could have Eagle 8 HD in the sky, and I'll ask Debbie here at the assignment desk, is there any update on whether or not we're going to have Eagle in the sky participating in the search efforts today? Still waiting for an update in that regard, and if Eagle 8 HD is in the sky over the area, we will take you live to live Eagle 8 video with, of course, our wonderful chief photographer here at the station, Paul Lamison, who is the voice of Eagle 8 HD. So yes, they do have a TFR. It's only to 400 feet. The chopper, of course, is way above 400 feet, more at an altitude of about 1,200 feet. So we do have the opportunity here, folks, to get you some new aerial search video. From Tara Maglio Jacobs on Twitter, #HJB, is there any footage of Brian actually driving the car to the reserve, traffic cameras, or anything like that? There has to be something for them to be focusing so hard in that area other than the word of his family.
Very solid question, and just such a, I mean, again, this is such a modern case in all the visuals that are involved, and that's a great point. That could be something that that they have that they're not telling us. Again, police do not tell us everything, and we understand the reason for that. And would you want Brian to know, hey, if he has access to a car, hey, a camera might catch you that way? But that's great question. We don't know the answer, but it's definitely a possibility, right?
It is a possibility, and we'll of course follow up on this style of question here, folks. Let's get to, and let's just, is there any footage? Here's the thing, there's nothing to say that there wasn't footage.
Right.
A traffic camera. There could have been a traffic camera on the route from the house to the reserve here.
Right.
But that's not something that the police are going to put out on blast. That's not something that they're going to just share out to the public. That's something that they're going to reserve to themselves, especially with the FBI leading this investigation now. So there's nothing to say that there isn't footage. Maybe they've got a whole lot more evidence that Brian is in this area than we currently know about at this time.
No doubt about that. And I think, one example of these cameras too, by the way, is the National Park System has cameras. There's surveillance systems out there, we found out. And that's crazy to think of. Where are you putting those cameras? How obvious are they? But we also, one of the tips that somebody referenced today was the Florida Panhandle. There was a picture of a guy.
We're going to get to that. Yep.
It was a deer cam. It was a deer cam that captured a guy that, I don't know, I think he looked like Brian. I think the investigators up there pointed out they exhausted every possible connection between Laundrie and that area, that he had no friends in the area, so thus they thought he wouldn't be in there, and they did search it heavily and determined possibly that lead was not an actual sighting of Brian. But yeah, the cameras are everywhere. They're 100% everywhere right now.
Sheena Evans Cisneros, #AJB. Did anything come out, or did anything come about with the supposed sighting of Brian in Baker, Florida? Because of this supposed sighting, have they or will they put law enforcement at the Florida border? So did anything come of it? It certainly was looked into by law enforcement. Now, I will share exactly my initial reaction, my gut reaction. Walt, were you on stream with me yesterday when we got in that? No, it was Josh Benson.
Yeah.
Have you seen this? Have you seen the trail cam picture? You know the one we're talking about?
I have, yeah.
All right. Well, my gut impression yesterday was that there's very little to no resemblance to Brian Laundrie.
Really?
What was your reaction?
So I'm actually pulling it up now. I thought, I didn't stare at it for a long time. I thought there was some resemblance, but I thought he maybe had a little more hair than Brian. But Brian would have more hair right now, unless he's got a
and the
Charger.
backpack being similar.
Was the backpack similar?
The backpack was said to be similar by folks online, and so they look there. Of course, that is something that police and law enforcement are going to look into. Of course,
No doubt.
law enforcement is
No doubt.
is very much aware of this story across the country, whether it's in Mobile County in Alabama that we were talking about yesterday, whether it's in the Florida Panhandle. I believe that's Okaloosa or Santa Rosa County on the Florida Panhandle. I think Baker is Okaloosa County. But of course, they looked into it, and there's nothing, as we understand it, there is zero. There's nothing credible about that image at this time that leads officers or authorities to believe that was Brian Laundrie caught on that trail camera.
And I think a spokesperson for the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office said, quote, "No one and nothing of note was found." And I know I'd read separately that they also, again, determined he had no connections to be up there. Of course, that seems a little odd, right? Because he does have a connection to this wooded area, but it does seem like a guy that is theoretically on the run. I don't know if he's just going to go to places he has connections, but in this case, they said nothing was found in that search.
Let's address our commenters joining us on YouTube. Hi, YouTube. JB Buno, 8 on your side, senior investigator Walt PETITO here with you. Hello to YouTube. Yeah, that comment section is something like when Han Solo goes into what is it, into hyperdrive, or he goes light speed. Those comments come in so quickly, so unbelievably quickly that I can't read. I see a Harrison in the comment section. I see a Shay in the comment section. Frank, Chloe. I wish you could see my screen here because it's just it's impossible. But fortunately, of course, we have digital content producer Heather Monahan, who is monitoring the comments on YouTube and is able to provide us with and pluck some of the hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyWalt comments out of the YouTube comment section. And yes, we can engage our audience here on YouTube. And the perfect question for 8 on your side, senior investigator Walt PETITO to answer here from Stephanie Summers on YouTube in our YouTube comment section. Hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyWalt. When will the affidavits for the search warrants for the Laundrie home be released?
They have 10 days. So 10 days from, I would say 10 days from Monday. If they got it on Monday, did they get it on Sunday? 10 days from Sunday. And then, of course, they can, if they want, and they can request it to be sealed. But then there's still a date time frame for how long they can seal it. And they have to go back. And I've dealt with this before where things got sealed for a while, and it was something I wanted to see, so I had to sort of fight for it. It wasn't that hard of a fight, but I had to point out the law. You can only seal it for X amount of days, and then you can keep sealing it. A woman on Twitter, I pointed out to her, she pointed out a case where the file was sealed for 1 year, a murder case. I just don't see that happening here. So we could have it any day now, or perhaps they wait until that 10th day, because there could be, look, you go to a judge to get a warrant, you put in that affidavit, you spell out your case.
What exactly do you think that we're going to find out when that documentation becomes public?
Well, it's a great question. Who knows? But think about the warrant we have. I have it right here.
It's on WFLA.com, the WFLA app, the previous search warrant documentation that we received.
This is from the Northport Police Department. This was a warrant. Think how vanilla this warrant is. They were first on the 14th. That would be last Tuesday. They asked to search the van. Okay. Then and then on the next day they asked to search the hard drive, the external hard drive they found in the van. Just in this one warrant, we found out all sorts of information. We found out police were worried about Gabby's mental state. We found out about that text that Gabby's mom said was she quote unquote, according to this document, odd, because it was basically supposedly from Gabby saying, talking about Stan and about how her calls were going to voicemail. And the mom pointed out it's odd because she doesn't call her grandfather Stan. So now that tightens our timeline theoretically. If Gabby didn't send that, now she's been missing for 5 days instead of 3 days. So we learned that in here. And we also learned that the probable cause they were looking for was tied to a crime, right? Even though he's a person of interest. It was tied to a crime about missing and endangered people. So that affidavit from the FBI could very well have some very interesting purported facts about the case that the FBI used to get it, but we just don't have that affidavit yet. It can definitely tell a story. Affidavits always tell a story because that's how you get one from a judge. You go to a judge, you say, this is our probable cause. This is what we know right now. We want to know more, and that's why we want to search this particular place.
Again, taking your hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyWalt comments and questions here in the Facebook Live comment section. I will lose sleep over this tonight if I don't correct myself, being the Star Wars nerd that I am. You go into light speed to travel in hyperspace in Star Wars. So I fumbled on that Star Wars reference there, and I cannot live with myself knowing that I botched.
But I get the image, right? The image is the white dots, right?
Yes, and that's what my comment section looks like here on YouTube, where, again, we're taking your comments here on the Gabby Petito story.
It's coming
and
in
on
so
the,
fast.
Yeah. Like light speed fast was, again, the reference here. Hello, YouTube. We're going to continue to take your questions and comments via YouTube and Twitter and Facebook Live. Let's stay with YouTube. From very clearly on YouTube, hashtag HJB, do investigators have a timeline for when they'd call off the search for Laundrie? Can we be confident that they will keep searching until they find him? And we have a commitment here that they are committed to searching the 25,000 acres of Carlton Reserve here. That is an enormous undertaking.
It's a third the size of Tampa. Tampa's 70,000 acres. So
Massive.
It's a third the size of Tampa.
Massive.
And the water can make it simpler in some ways and harder in others, right? Less land to search. 80 miles of trails, though. 80 miles of trails.
We're talking about an enormous search area.
Absolutely.
So if we're going to go into the hypothetical area now, if Brian Laundrie did select this area to vanish and to disappear, there's a lot of different places where he could be. But also at the same time, if you select this area to disappear, you are dealing with a lot as far as the elements, as far as wildlife, as far as not having access to any reliable source of water or food, not being able you're pretty much on a remote island if you're going deep into the wilderness here of the Carlton Reserve and Myakkahatchee. It's an extremely vast area that Brian Enton on News Nation, who had flew in a chopper, and Paul Lamison, of course, noted this as well. You really are humbled by how vast and how large this area is here, part of the Tampa Bay area. When you're in the sky, just you look around, you do 360 and you look around, and it's just wilderness as far as you can see. So while the search area here is a little bit closer to homes in Venice, and it's a little bit closer to homes and communities, just the area itself is just massive and large. And again, we're talking about 25,000 acres. But a timeline for when they'd call off the search, Wall?
I just don't. I mean, we're not calling. There's no. They're not calling.
There's no timeline for that.
Do we mean from the reserve, or do we mean in general? I'm assuming the question's about the reserve.
Yeah.
I mean, you just described it. If they have any reason to believe he's out there and somehow surviving. And by the way, as you're describing how hard it is out there, how harsh it is out there, are you talking about for the search crews, or are you talking about for Brian? Because it goes both ways, doesn't it? The search crews at least have access to water, potable water. Does Brian have access to potable water? Is there a spring? There's got to be a spring somewhere that's 25,000 acres, right? Where you theoretically could drink the water, but does Brian have access to that? So is it that type of thing? We don't know this because the family hasn't talked. It'd be interesting to know, does he have a survivalist sort of skill set? We don't know that.
And if there is a source of drinking water here in the area, isn't that something that the teams here would focus on? Because if you're thinking that he's been out here for several days, if he's out here for several days, you're thinking eventually he's going to run out of water. He's going to have a source of drinking water. And that would be a logical place to start your search as far as the sources of water that are in this area that is the safe water to drink.
That might be why they're not telling us. I'm sure somebody knows whether there's a spring or some sort of potentially potable water out there. That's something that I'm sure that's a piece of information. If I'm the police department and the FBI, I don't tell the public, right? Because you're right. That is something that you would focus on. 75% water. Is any of it drinkable? I don't know. I mean, he's been out there. If he's out there, and by the way, let's go with this. Do we know they're searching for Brian? Or do we think, could they be searching for evidence? Could they be searching for something else? Is there a tip that leads them there to be looking for something else? We assume it's for Brian, but they're probably also looking for evidence as well, or a trail of something, right? Breadcrumbs, something that leads them to him?
Something where he originally began here, realized, oops, this is bigger and more intimidating and overwhelming than I thought. I can't survive out here. I'm going to walk to the nearest town, maybe 10 or 20 miles over. Again, we're really getting now into the if this happened or if that happened or could this have happened or could that have happened. But again, just staying here, we're going to try to keep the train on the tracks. But again, to Walt's point is good. If Brian does get into this area and then realizes, wow, I'm running out of food, running out of water, this isn't how I envisioned it as far as trying to just disappear and to survive out here, could he have gone to Carlton Reserve and then left the area? And is there a community nearby or a trail that he could have followed to get to another area where it's a little bit more habitable for him over an extended period of time?
Or even a friend, right? A
friend that, again, we so much that we don't know. From Rebecca M on YouTube. Hello, Rebecca. #KJB. Can his social media accounts be tracked? As we understand it, Facebook and the other social media companies, Facebook, of course, owns Instagram, and YouTube is, of course, separate from Facebook and Instagram. But others, of course, they are cooperating as much as they can, of course, with this investigation. And the FBI, they have social media companies on speed dial, so to speak, as far as being able to reach out to them and ask if the social media companies can provide anything to an ongoing FBI-led criminal investigation. So there, of course, can his accounts be tracked? Absolutely. And that all becomes, there's legal boundaries there with that, Walt, that the FBI has to navigate, of course, with the social media companies. But as I understand it, the last we heard is that there is cooperation from the social media giants to help in this regard.
Chief Garrison, I believe, said that last Thursday during his news conference. Same day, I hate to point out that he said they knew where Brian was, but he did say that they are getting cooperation from the social media folks. And we have heard tidbits. I think you referenced one on, was it which account? Was some account of his went live? There's that
right. There was an account that went live for, I think, less than 2 seconds, and it was an Instagram live, and people immediately began to think that. But you have to remember, folks, that there's a lot of fake accounts that are being circulated online. People just trying to have a laugh, or people trying to have a go at others. And let's keep that in. I was just pointed out here as I was talking about it from our team here at WFLA that the amount of fake online activity, completely fabricated account activity and social media traction that is out there is staggering. The volume is staggering. So I've in the last several minutes I've been reading here. When I look this way, folks, I'm looking at the comments as they're scrolling in here across our platforms, and I've seen so many. JB, did you see this Instagram user post this, or this Reddit or TikTok user post that? Yeah. And again, so much intentional misdirections that are out there on this story. And Walt was, in essence, slamming them earlier. Like, why would you do that? And people are just trying to capitalize on this, this what has become, in the estimations of many, this mystery sensation of trying to find out what happened to Gabby Petito and where Brian Laundrie is.
It brings up that whole fake news that we heard over the years, and those comments are really, that's the true definition of fake news. Fake news is not deciding what to cover and what not to cover. Fake news is making stuff up. And obviously, to do that is cruel to the parents and clogs the tip lines, and it's just it's thoughtless and just shouldn't happen. But I assume we'll hear more of that. And then something that wasn't fake news that the spokesperson out of Northport, Joshua Taylor, pointed out was the read you had earlier about the self-inflicted gunshot wound to someone within a mile of this area that is not Brian Laundrie, but that could spin out of control easily. And luckily, Josh Taylor got on top of that one. So.
Yeah, I completely agree. And what Walt is referencing for our audience members that have joined us in the last 20 to 30 minutes or so, This was a very, very curious development in this case, but it was also a great tactic here by Josh Taylor to get ahead of any social media misinformation being thrown out there. In the update that was sent out here at 1:03 Eastern, Josh Taylor, City of Northport, PIO and Communications Manager, wrote the following. Additionally, right now, NPPD is on the scene of a possible self-inflicted death roughly 1 mile from the environmental park. Nothing to do with this case. And that's, again, a PIO and getting ahead of any scanner traffic, making it out on social media, and just doing everything that he can to be expeditious with the delivery of information here to ensure that there isn't social media traction that turns out to be erroneous in the future. So, and also too, part of that update here, folks, was the video that you see here scrolling in the center of your screen, which this video here just gives me Saving Private Ryan and Band of Brothers vibes here. It looks like they're going to war here. And they are, again, this is an ongoing search effort here with all the crews that are fanning out into Carlton Reserve here to bring this story to a resolution by tracking down Brian Laundrie, the missing person of interest, the sole missing person of interest in the death of Gabby Petito and the homicide investigation that now is Gabby Petito. I'll read also here from Joshua Taylor's update, and it reads as follows. We've received a number of questions about the underwater dive vehicles entering the Carlton. Area resources are looking at large bodies of water, including dive teams, boats, and sonar equipment. At this time, this does not mean anything has been found. It's part of the overall search process. So dive teams are on standby, and they might go in the water. We might see them, and I want to make that clear here, folks. Let's all be very smart going forward. If there's video that comes out of a dive team in the water, that doesn't mean that they found something. That means that they have perhaps an interest in this area. You can't see below the surface of the water. This water is extremely murky. It's deeper in some areas than you would think. They need to get crews in the water here. And if it's worth risking gators and snakes being in this treacherous water, then it's worth looking into, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they have something with 100% certainty that they're going to find in that location. It's a search. And it's not necessarily something that they're going in there with a targeted approach to lift up something from the surface, from underneath the surface of the water here.
And again, speculation, but just judging by other incidents, other searches, sometimes those elements, the dive element is brought out there, not necessarily because you need him now or you need the team now. It could be they searched out there yesterday and they searched out there on Saturday and Sunday, and it could have just hit them. We need a dive team in case we need a dive team. So it may, that dive team we have no reports yet that the dive team has actually gone in the water, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
It could be out there because you don't want to wait for the dive. You don't want to spend the hour to wait for the dive team. If you see something, you want to go out and try to get it. So the dive team, we're still kind of wondering why. And I think JB, as a scuba diver, points out, this is not a beautiful, crystal clear area to dive in. You're not going to see. What do you think the visibility down there is as a diver?
Zero.
So at that point, these guys are trained, and this is how they find, sadly, bodies. They're trained to feel their way.
You can have high-powered lights mounted to your mask, and all it does is light up the murky, dense nastiness that is right directly inches in front of your eyeballs. That's really what it's like as far as being in water this murky. And the only reason I know is because I've been in water 10% this murky, as far as sometimes snorkeling here in the Tampa Bay area, and you'll come across some really dense areas that just have seaweed or just have a lot of muck in it. And quite frankly, that's not anywhere close to the murkiness that we're talking about here. So I'm sure that there are ways, and yes, they didn't bring in sonar because they thought it sounded cool, folks. They brought in sonar because they thought it was going to be useful, because the visibility likely in this water, when you go down several feet especially, is just going to be so incredibly poor.
And they can read that sonar. They're trained to read what the sonar says, to tell them perhaps the difference between an alligator, a beaver, a snake, and a backpack or a cell phone. Imagine the information. I know they have been able to tap into the cell phone, and I don't know the answer to this, but someone out there with expertise in forensic detective work, the cell phone itself must be of more value than just being able to read it from the backside remotely. That cell phone could have some key information, and perhaps that's what they're looking for, at least one of the things they're looking for out there.
Let's get to some more questions and comments that are coming in here, and let's see here from Michelle, right on cue, from Twitter. Hi, Michelle, on Twitter. #HeyJB. Do they have sonar that they can look at the water with before they dive? And I want to focus that portion. So can they sonar the area and then dive? And yes, of course, I believe that is how this can work here as far as the tactics here for the underwater search and recovery teams here. So using the sonar, trying to get a better idea as to what is down there, if it's flat, if there's anything that's coming up on sonar that indicates that there's something resembling an object at the bottom of a particular area of water. And so to Walt's point here, and again, I want to make this clear for our audience, the dive teams are unbelievably brave. I'm again, Walt, thanks Walt for yes, I'm a diver. I am a diver, but I have never dove in anything quite like this. And I would rather have sharks literally circling me down in water with visibility like the Florida Keys. I would rather have that than be in the water with virtually zero visibility, knowing that something, if anything, could be out there as far as gators and snakes. Because you can't defend yourself in water like this if you can't protect, or if you can't see the threat that's coming. So I can see a threat, even if it's a 7-foot long shark. I can see a shark coming at me. I know people are going to think I'm crazy by saying that, but it's the truth. I can see a shark coming at me, and I've had sharks around me in the Florida Keys before, but I would never want to be in this water. I would never want to be in this water.
Think about it, and I have had some experience with snakes in my life, and I won't necessarily explain, but I know snakes. I had pet snakes as a kid. My brother and I did, odd as that may sound. So I understand sort of how a snake works, but a water moccasin or whatever else would be in there, you could swim by that creature, right? And it might get you on the way by it. And the same thing, I'm sure, with the gator. And I think the other thing, you say they're brave, they also have to have a very strong intestinal fortitude, just because they're feeling their way and they may come up on something, whether it be a body or something else. And they don't want to miss anything, right? They don't want to go back in that water. That is a specific type of training, I imagine, to be able to search that type of area.
What I don't know is the type of sonar equipment that they have, and even if I did, I wouldn't be able to answer this question for you. I'm not a sonar expert, but if they do have sonar, can sonar detect if a gator is in a particular area of water? Because gators are known to lurk. Gators are known to remain stagnant and wait for opportunities and move at a slow pace, while they can move more quickly than you would think, they're also known to be more stationary of a predator. So I'm curious if the sonars can pick up, activity underneath the surface of the water, such as gators or snakes. And if anybody is a sonar expert out there, let me know in the comment section with #HeyJB and #HeyWalt. Let's move on here. Michelle, thanks for your comment and your question. Susie Kiernan, #HeyJB. Seeing a person walk around in a mask is a great way to hide in plain sight. We talked about this yesterday, Walt. If I walked into Walmart, Target, anywhere, Lowe's, Home Depot, and I saw somebody today in 2021 wearing a hat, sunglasses, and a mask, you wouldn't think anything of it, and I wouldn't be able to identify that person. I wouldn't be able to say that, hey, you kind of look like Brian, because virtually their entire face is covered there. So that makes it more challenging. It's a 2020/2021 twist to this story. That is there a chance that Brian Laundrie is hiding in plain sight, that he's been able to wander about more easily because of everybody wearing masks as a result of or a lot of people wearing masks as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic?
I would say, though, in some ways, if I have, and I think you pointed out yesterday, I actually, I have a friend, a former coworker, who sort of has some of these similarities, the haircut and that, facial hair. And I think you're right. It becomes somewhat of a familiar type of a look, right? Maybe the guy that might be losing their hair sort of cuts to the chase and gets rid of the rest of it. So that sort of is out there. So there's a lot of people out there who could be mistaken for this guy too, right? Because now you're not seeing his face, you're not seeing really part of his nose. You might not be able to see his eyes. So now it might open you up even more. But the flip side of that is there's a lot of suspicious folks out there right now that feel a sort of a feeling of helplessness, who want to help, who are probably looking. I mean, if you're in line at a grocery store and you see the back of a guy with a hat on and he's got the mask on and you see a close cropped haircut, I think your alarms might go off if you're following this story. I will say though, does he still have a close cropped haircut? At this point, you would say no, right? I don't know. I mean, he's been out there theoretically for 8 days.
Remember now, all of the images that we are seeing now of Brian Laundrie are many, many weeks old.
Right.
So his hair could have grown back.
He could have not shaved it on the drive back from Florida. So yeah, we don't know. We don't know what he looks like last. Maybe the FBI, well, if the FBI did, they would have released it.
And I'm the worst person to ask in this regard because I have thick Italian hair that grows nice
hair.
Thank you. It grows really fast. I'm one of those people who has to get a haircut very, very often. But I'd be very curious if you were the average person, if you had a shaved head as of again, we're talking about now mid-August, mid to late or so August, that time frame when the last images of Brian Laundrie were posted online. How long now? We're now about 5 weeks, roughly in the area of 4 to 5 weeks later. How long could his hair be now? People are going to think that this line of this particular conversation is
it's important.
It's very important.
We haven't really talked to. I don't think I've heard this talk. I haven't. We're sort of looking, and I think we've sort of missed that key point. That's important for people to know. He very well doesn't look like Brian that we know anymore, right? He's 23 years old. His hair grows, I'm sure, very fast. So yeah, he could. Who knows? I mean, you assume he might have cut it while he was at his parents' house, but he hasn't been there since Tuesday. So yeah, it's a great point. If you're looking for somebody, it'd be interesting to know what he looks like now, or what he looked like even last Tuesday.
Might have a little bit of hair on his head. And I will say again, I didn't see resemblance in the Florida Panhandle trail camera shot, the snapshot from the trail cam there, and that night vision shot that's been shared a lot on social media. I didn't see the resemblance with Brian Laundrie, but there was more hair on his head than the person who recently shaved their head. So I do understand that there are some people out there. Again, back to the comment here from Beverly Morton, #AJB, #AWalt. Why aren't they taking the Baker, Florida deer camera picture seriously? Compare the two pics side by side, and it looks just like him, and he has the same backpack as some of the social media photos. See, this is everybody is observing this differently. I don't see the same resemblance. I think everybody wants to see it through the lens of, yes, that's him. That's him.
It is Denver. So is that the FBI calling me? I'm going to say no.
You're getting a call from Denver?
Yeah, but I'm going to go that it's not
take
the
it.
FBI.
Take it. I'll take it. I'll stay here with you live. You never know what that could be. I'll stay here with you live, folks. But again, I'll continue here by just saying here that I didn't see resemblance in that photo, but there was a little more hair on their head. Walter, was nothing? No. Nothing.
Right. And also it was pointed out by the investigators up there that he has no connections to that area, and they did say they looked for it thoroughly. They looked for him thoroughly. It does go to though the fact that you'd think. So I have this ongoing conversation with someone on Twitter about the possibility of hiking. Again, speculation. It's all we have right now to some degree of hiking from